Hey everybody, I decided to look at question 3 this week, 4 factors for the analysis of any learning environment. And I enjoyed the problem model that starts on page 43, and it's outlined, the 4 factors are outlined there, or at least 4. And this is the ones I liked were determining whether there is a problem. And that's on 43, that classic, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. It makes sense to me not spending a lot of time on something if it's efficient and effective. The second part of analysis is determine whether the problem is related to employees' performance in training environments or to the learner's achievement in educational environments. And that one's on page 45. And the idea there is this a training problem, or is this something different? And the example they give for education would be, is there a new measurement scale? So I know in the state of Wyoming, we've just switched from ACT's measurement of student performance in 9th and 10th grade to a state-based model that is called YTOP. And the performance has changed a little bit, and so some of our kids struggle, and they talk about a little bit in this chapter about the dip in performance, and you almost expect it that first year of introducing a new scale as teachers learn it and students develop their understanding of what they need to do to perform. It's that needs assessment. The third factor for analysis is determine whether the system to the achievement and performance problem is learning. So again, the authors talk about a needs assessment, but they also mention that this is typically, there's more than one cause. So it's not just an idea of training. It's not just an idea of spending a lot of time with instruction. And the fourth factor is determine whether instruction for these learning goals is currently offered. And then it says, if it isn't offered, you can use the innovative model. And if it is offered, then you can use the discrepancy model to figure out what's going on. The second part of this question for the week asked, which is the most important to keep in mind for an instructional problem compared to a non-instructional, and why? And I felt the most important was number 1, determining whether there is a problem. And the reason is because some things, especially with instructional design, you can spend time on. The authors talk about page 5, like the deliberate arrangement of learning conditions to promote a goal or the attainment of a goal. So if I know that there's a problem there's an instructional problem, I can design a system to answer and solve that problem. But if let's say the problem has to do with what the authors talk about at the beginning of our chapter, with the servers not being able to support the software, well, there you go. So the instructional problem, you really can't fix that. You need better servers. And so I'm sure there's a process to go in and say, this is how we're going to raise money to get the servers. But in the grand scheme, if the servers can't support the software and the learning environment, okay, that's the problem, and it's not instructional. You need better servers. One of the texts that I wanted to give you, it's old now. When I first read it, it was only about 6 years old. Now it's 20, so you can decide whether or not you like it. But it is called, I want to flip my camera around. Can't do it, so I'll have to show it like this. It's called User-Centered Technology by Robert Johnson. And it's specific about, it's called Rhetorical Theory for Computers and Other Mundane Artifacts. And it reminds me of this, and you can't see it very well, but it reminds me of a word that the author uses in here, and it's called spetrazura, and it's the ability to make the difficult appear mundane. And as I went through the factors for analysis of a learning environment, it made me think of this word and the idea that using instructions, designing instructions to help people learn is important and inherent to the system. And he writes in here, technologies are a means to our end after all, and the activity of using instructions can be an additional barrier to achieving our goal. That is, when we use technology, we are too busy trying to figure out how the artifact can help us attain our goal, and the instructional document that accompanies the artifact is perceived as a time-consuming nuisance. And so again, as you're looking at a environment and you're determining if there's a problem, is the problem that the instructions are bad, or is no one reading the instructions? And I know personally, I go to the instructions after because I assume the instructions will tell me how to do it, but I want to really start digging in. Anyway, it's the reason why I say it's old is it's 1998 is the publication date, but it still is relevant, I think. So thanks. Hope everybody's having a good week. I'll see you all in the comments.